Oh, hello. I'm cracking up because we have a guest with us tonight, and I can see him dancing in the studio behind the scenes to our phenomenal countdown music. So I think Katie and I have heard it one too many times, so we're no longer dancing to it, but it's
not quite a banger for us anymore.
It is definitely a banger. And if you listen to our podcast before the banger comes on, it's me introducing the show. And week after week prior, people are like, God, this girl's voice is so damn annoying. Why do I listen to these two broads? But as always, we do appreciate it when you guys listen to us, when you guys watch us. Welcome to the Real Football Fans of New Jersey. I am Caitlin. This is my sidekick, my partner in crime, Katie. And we are so excited to be here for episode 195. We are 5 episodes away from the big 200 people. Katie and I we're talking on the side, people. We're getting ready for that big episode. So as I say every single week, keep a lookout. We're going to have official plans soon, and they're going to be fun and they're going to be exciting. There's going to be wine, even though I did give up wine for Lent, people. So I have to show off our branded koozie. You can't really see it. If you guys want one of these, DM us. But that is my 200th episode is our one exception. So I spoke to the man upstairs and asked him if I'm allowed to have wine on that 200th episode. So I have God's grace that
Good stuff.
Very good stuff for sure. So without further ado, we would love to introduce our guests to you guys tonight. And we have I wouldn't even say he's famous, not infamous. It's not a bad thing. He's famous. We've got Justin Penik here with us tonight, people. Talking Giants, Bleeding Blue. Justin is one of our long-time listeners of Real Football Fans in New Jersey, as Katie and I are long-time listeners of Talkin' Giants. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so excited for this episode. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Katie and Caitlin, hello. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Justin Penik. I do Talk Giants. I do Bleeding Blue, which is a history show at Justin Penik on Twitter, and we talk also talking football. I'm gonna start plugging that a little bit too. We're not sure when that's officially going to be launched as a podcast, but Bobby's doing a great job of putting out draft breakdowns on that Talking Football YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that if you like draft stuff. But we're going to talk some draft stuff tonight, but we're still a couple months away from that.
We love talking football. So
yes, and happy to be here. You two are some of my favorite people in the entire world, and there's very few people that I would put away. I was just eating a really good salad. I had some salad with some like taco flavored grilled chicken with blue cheese, black olives. Just had to put that away. There's very few people I would put that away for, but I will put it away for you guys. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, fun fact, I did tell my husband last night, I was like, we're getting Justin from Talking Giants. He's going to be on the show. And he was like, he's the really funny one, right? And I was like, yeah, there's the tall one, and then there's the really funny one. So that's Justin.
Bobby just liked the episode on Twitter, so he's probably watching. He's like, damn it, I'm funny too, you guys.
We love both of you guys. You guys are great.
We do.
Yes. I have to defend my 40-yard dash that I did last year. I unofficially ran a 4.32. Very unofficial.
Wow.
But that was a funny video.
To the combine? Are we going to see you this week?
You may see, maybe not this week, but we are planning on doing some type of combine, so that may be coming out. I'm going to tease it. So,
all right, I love that. All right, well, I'm looking at our Twitter account view right now, and as always, we do use StreamYard. You can't engage with us. We can't see who's commenting and things like that. So it's a pain in the ass. But if you guys want to head over to YouTube and Facebook and comment live during the show, we have a ton of questions for Justin. But please go ahead and send any questions or comments that you have for him, for the three of us. We love engaging with you guys throughout the show. But again, Twitter, it's a pain in our butt these days, but you can always head over to YouTube and Facebook as well. So listen, I say we get this party started. And like I said, we got a ton of stuff for you.
We got some great questions for you, Justin. And we're just going to dive right into it. A lot of mainly Giants related questions, but we do have some just in general NFL questions for you as well. Free agency coming up, the draft coming up, a lot around that. So The first question has to do with free agency, and it is realistically money-wise, who is a free agent you think the Giants should target?
I'm going to go with Jerry Hughes. He's an edge rusher from the Buffalo Bills. Now he's on the plus side of 30, so you're thinking plus side of 30, edge rusher. This guy could be looking for a winning situation, but, we know Joe Shane's coming from the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Bills may be in a different cap situation themselves, but still relatively low cap space. They just extended Josh Allen. They have some guys on the books. So Jerry Hughes may not be a priority for them, especially because he's not a big sack guy, but he does get a lot of pressures. And I do think the Giants are going to be in the running and in the works for a lot of these 1-year deals, 2-year deals this free agency. They're not going to be looking to spend a lot of money. They still have to free up a lot of money. And I think Jerry Hughes from the Bills, a guy that can get a lot of pressures. And, we're looking at this edge room saying we don't really have a lot of depth there. Lorenzo Carter may not be back. O'Shane Zimenez was basically benched the final second half of the season. I don't really see him on the team next year. So getting an experienced edge rusher in here, I think that could really help, especially Jerry Hughes can help if you can't pull an edge rusher in the first round of the NFL draft. He's kind of like that insurance package of at least we have this guy on a 1-year deal.
I love that answer, especially because maybe 1 to 2 year deal. You get, like you said, the experience in there. And with a position that the Giants have been lacking in for so long, I would love for someone just to come in and make an immediate impact. And I know, we've been, the injury bug has hit us. We've had guys questionable. Why are they, not doing so well at the later half of the season? I don't care if a guy comes in for 5 or 6 games and makes an impact from the edge position, because it's just been empty. There hasn't been anything there. So that's why I love that answer, like from that aspect. I think the Bills relationship, I think there's going to be a ton of it's like when someone moves from one organization to another, like in like the corporate world, like you always know people in your network. You're trying to pull people in. I think that Bills-Giants relationship right now, we're going to see a lot of similarities there. Like we're pulling people from the Bills organizations, not just management right now, but we're going to see a lot of players too. So I love that answer.
Justin, don't you feel like it's been decades ago that we used to every single Sunday sing, "We fly high, no lie, you know this"? We haven't been balling in a long time. Long time.
Yeah, and what Hugh, not even what Hughes can do, but just looking at what the Giants were expecting out of their edge group this past year, we were all saying, and I was one of these people, can't get worse than 2020. Can't get worse, because you had Carter go down, you had O'Shane go down, and then we had guys like Jabal Sheard, Carter Coughlin, Cam Brown, who was an interior linebacker at Penn State, and then they're, a known special teamer. They're making him go off the edge. It's like, well, it can't get worse. 2021, it got worse. It got worse. And they relatively were somewhat healthy at the edge spot. That's not what really, injuries weren't really the thing that plagued them this year. So you're getting a guy in here where especially when you don't know, what you can kind of guarantee yourself in the draft. At least Jerry Hughes, again, he could be that insurance package. And if you get a couple studs in the draft, and again, Hughes is a rotational guy, so edge. And this can maybe even transition us into mindsets about the draft or whatever about offensive linemen. But I'm going back and forth right now, and I'm going to give myself time after free agency, and depending on who the Giants cut and who's on the team. But I am going back and forth right now between what I want more, edge or tackle. And I know a lot of Giants fans are like, it's an absolute slam dunk where you want to get offensive linemen. You want to double down with offensive line with those first round picks.
It's me.
And I get it. And I don't even know where I'm fully at yet, but having the opportunity at beefing up this edge room this offseason through whether it is 1-year deals via free agency, because those have worked for a lot of teams. It even worked for the Giants with Marcus Golden, right? And possibly getting a stud in the draft. I'm kind of for that, because you look at the value of getting an edge rusher, a really good edge rusher. It's very, very valuable in today's NFL.
Yeah.
Well, then let's go right into offensive linemen. If we do look at them in the first round, is there an offensive lineman you favor right now for us picking at one of those top spots?
I'm going to give you 3, but if you have to put a gun to my head, I'll kind of give you an answer.
Okay.
Evan Neal, and Ekwonu. Those are the two tackles there, which if they're at 5, if any one of those guys are at 5, I do think it's a kind of an easy kind of let's get this guy. Because Neil probably seen as a
could be 1 or 2. He could be off the court at 1 or 2.
He could be.
And people are saying the same thing about Ekwonu, which makes me think that they may not be there, but also you know, our team if do teams need a left tackle. I know the Lions just got Sewell. The Lions may be looking for an edge rusher. They may be looking for Aiden Hutchinson. Jaguars are probably gonna grab a tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence.
They have to.
You would think that's almost a lock. But if one of those two guys are there, I'd say take him, and I would say take him over any of the edge rushers besides Hutchinson that may be available. Because also you have that 7th pick too, or if you do want to trade back. And the third one that is a wild card for me, if the Giants are possibly in a trade down scenario, but I even wouldn't be mad if they would take him at 7, is Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. I mean, he is just a steady football player. Where you don't see a lot of bad reps from Kenyon Green, and everything is just so consistent. Whereas, you'll see some flash plays, like sure, he puts a guy on his ass, he's moving well, out in the open field, but you watch, some film on Kenyon Green, you watch Kenyon Green reps, and it's just like, well, he's boring because he's doing the same thing every play, and he has that consistency with his feet, with his hand placement. So those are 3 guys who I would love. I would love if they were, if we slapped an NY on the side of their helmets and any one of those guys in that first round, especially Kenyon Green in a possible trade down scenario. Like my perfect dream is edge rusher tackle with 5 and then trade down with 7 and get Kenyon Green.
Caitlin's definitely more so the I'll take 2 offensive linemen.
I'll take 1,000. I'll take the whole draft. I'll take offensive line. That's it. The entire 2022 draft of the New York Giants, I would take all linemen. Honestly,
I'm more so okay if it's 1 lineman and 1 edge rusher with those first 2 picks. But I will say that with our first pick, I would like it to be one of those offensive linemen because I just think it's I would rather have a really steady offensive lineman over an edge rusher. We just have to protect Daniel Jones. It's just getting ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
And it gets shaky if either Ekwonu or Neal are off the board. It gets shaky, and then I think a lot of the O linemen or bust people. Which again, I'm not. There's no critique in it because I'm for it in a way. But it's gonna have to be a humbling pill to swallow. Where at 5, there may have to be another player, which is why, Wink Martindale coming in as defensive coordinator, it kind of threw everything off for me because Patrick Graham, I'm thinking Patrick Graham needs an edge rusher.
Right.
Secondary is cool because he's shown that even not with that top tier quality cornerback play, like we had Isaac Yadam as cornerback number 2 during 2020, that defense was an above average defense. It was a solid defense. So Patrick Graham showed with Jerome Henderson that, the DBs coach too, that they can adjust. Now, Wink, does he need that really, really good secondary to hold up in the back end? So the high blitz rate and the guys up front, do they need the time to get back there and have the pressures, have the QB hits, et cetera, et cetera? So my brain is going in a million different directions, and the addition of Wink Martindale has complicated what I really want and where I'm leaning with 5 and 7. But this year I am affording myself the time to make that decision after free agency and kind of moving into April.
Yeah. We've got time, people.
Well, question number 3 is interesting. Obviously, we've got some Buffalo Bills in our area of New York now with Dable and Shane. So it has people wondering and thinking, and what do you make of the people speculating that maybe the Giants should bring in Mitchell Trubisky?
Now, this is
a hot topic.
Yeah. This is my fan mentality. This is one of those where I take my, Talkin Giants, I guess, is seen as a like a legit podcast, a legit place to go for updates and analysis. This is where I put my fan brain on. And I grew up with Eli Manning. And what was the thing that Eli Manning did for years, which was never miss a game. Eli Manning never missed a game due to injury, or at least that wasn't, his own decision. You know what I mean? Stupid McAdoo. So I come up with growing up with Eli Manning as my quarterback. So I really don't care that much about backup quarterback. I really don't. And this isn't even a knock on Mitch Trubisky.
But what do you make of some of the? There are people out there saying if they
Yeah.
bring him in, he's going to compete for the starting quarterback position. What do you think about that?
I don't even think about that, to be honest.
No,
like that was a
I
major
don't
eye
either.
roll for me.
I don't either, because if you're going to bring in Mitchell Trubisky and you're going to have him compete with Daniel Jones for the starting job, then there's a part of you that has to think that Mitchell Trubisky can be an answer. You know, because what if Mitchell Trubisky comes in and plays well? Well, then you signed him for 1 year, and then you're in a little predicament. You're in a little situation. Let the guy that's already on the team, Daniel Jones, who you're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. If you're going to be in a situation where you have to franchise tag him, then you franchise tag him. And I think that's kind of unlikely just based on the trajectory of the Giants and the cap decisions that they need to make this offseason. And, they could be an okay team next year. Just don't see them being a winning team next year, where the only scenario where Jones is on the team post 2022 is if they make the playoffs. So you're going to bring in Trubisky. It automatically creates a quarterback controversy, which Daniel Jones isn't absolved from. Like, Daniel Jones doesn't deserve there not to be a quarterback controversy. But for a team that has such little depth in a lot of key areas, Mitchell Trubisky should not be that priority signing that the Giants should go out and do. I think in terms of backup quarterback, here's my mentality on it. And a lot of people disagree, but I think if your quarterback is out for the season, your season's low-key done. I think the Nick Foles and Jeff Hostetler stories are very rare. Yeah. That doesn't happen a lot, and especially for the Giants case, that 90-91 team was insanely good. So if you have a team that is insanely good and your quarterback's out for the year, then your team should be okay even without that starting quarterback. And if your quarterback is gone for only 4 weeks, then again, your team should be okay, where a Colt McCoy type of guy can keep your team afloat, which that's exactly what happened with the Cardinals this year. Kept them afloat. While
helped
Kyler
the Giants last year too.
Yeah, and kept the Giants afloat last year too.
I would love him back, to be honest.
So, but ideally, Mike Glennon should not derail your team, because Mike Glennon, you look at his numbers with the Jaguars and you look at the performance that he gave with the Jaguars, he didn't tank them. No. Mike Glennon tanked the Giants, and he was so bad. But that has to do with scheme, and that has to do with talent around you, and the fact that the Giants just did not trust that offensive line at all last year. So I get why thinking we watch what Mike Glennon did last year. Now, backup quarterback should kind of be a priority, especially when you consider Daniel Jones's injury history. If it's me, if you have somewhat of a better team and scheme around any quarterback, then any backup quarterback should be better. That's my thinking, especially when there are so many other things that's on this Giants team. O-line depth, secondary depth now is a question, especially if Bradbury's gone. Right. Linebacker depth if Blake is gone. There's going to be so many other areas that need addressing. Wide receiver depth if Shep's gone. There's going to be so many other things that need addressing outside of backup quarterback, when ideally a backup quarterback in an ideal situation should be playing 0 games.
Yeah.
Well, that clipboard, baby, don't ever come in.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I honestly think that you bring up a great point that a lot of Giants fans should kind of like peel back those layers, the layers of like, you just mentioned 3 or 4 people that we could lose that we're going to need to backfill. Yeah. And right now, from a prioritization standpoint, that backup quarterback might not be the first thing we go after. So I think a lot of Giants fans listening, like, I think it has been a very hot topic. I've seen it on Twitter, like literally this week alone, the last 3 days. I would, definitely clip out that segment Justin just said, because you got to listen to it.
I'm looking for an answer at quarterback. I'm not looking for a Band-Aid. I'm not looking for a Band-Aid solution at quarterback. I'm looking for an answer solution at quarterback. That's what I'm really looking at.
This is not a question that we have on our list here, but I'm just going to kind of plug it in because it kind of like we're talking about it. What about the teams that like need quarterbacks right now? Week after week, Caitlin and I are very critical about the quarterback class this year. Do you think that there is I'm not saying for the Giants to take anybody because they're not going to do that. I'm just talking any team that needs a quarterback. Is there somebody that like we're not giving enough love or credit to? Do you think somebody in this quarterback class could be good?
That's a good question.
I
don't think so.
I am in this flirtatious stage with Malik Willis,
Okay.
where I'm not
That's
ready
funny.
to.
I feel like I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm not ready to ask you out yet, and I'm not ready to take you to the dance. But I'm texting. Hey, I'm texting you up at 11:45 p.m.
You're sliding in the
I'm
DM.
gonna pee my pants.
That's where I'm at right now. And I was at the Senior Bowl, and Malik really did show out. Malik Willis really did show out at the Senior Bowl, and you're seeing I frankly think these reports are kind of dumb, and I think it goes with some of the biases that some NFL talent evaluators have at evaluating the quarterback position anyway, where Malik Willis he's a lot smarter and processing playbooks, a lot better than people think. And
we'll talk about anything.
It's like,
anything's a headline. Yeah.
Malik Willis has been a quarterback for quite a while, and he's gone through 2 different offensive systems while at Liberty. So, you would think that he was somewhat smart, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
Willis is, and this is the draft phrase, right? Willis's ceiling is a lot higher than anybody else's in this draft class. But you also can say that his floor is a lot lower than, let's say, a la Kenny Pickett, a la Desmond Ritter, any one of these other guys. But Willis has like those tools that you look for in a guy like Lamar, that you look like in Patrick Mahomes, like you look like in Josh Allen. Not calling him that, but those things can easily develop. Like if it's 2023, 2024, and we're saying that Malik Willis is, approaching that level, or he can take that step up, he needs that Josh Allen year 3 type of leap to get to that level. I'm not surprised. Like I can easily see that happen, because the things that you want to see out of quarterback play today, and I think Ritter was actually talking a lot about this today, is that improvisation. And when a play breaks down after 2.5 seconds and your first read isn't there, what are you going to do with football? Or 2 seconds? What are you going to do with the football? Are you going to, this is something that Daniel Jones has had a problem with. Are you going to make a bad decision? Are you going to, have the ball waving around willy-nilly and then cause a fumble? Malik Willis has that ability to extend the play. He has the arm strength to throw off platform, on the run, and the arm strength, that is something that a lot of these quarterbacks today that tie them together. The Herberts of the world, Allens, Mahomes, they have all of those kind of similar traits of mobility, improvisation, off-platform throws, and arm strength. Things that you can do outside of the playbook. That is what Malik Willis can bring you. So I'll tell you what, if the Giants and Joe Shane fall in love with Malik Willis, I'm going to be shocked, but I won't be mad.
No, Justin. I feel like you were sliding in the DMs, and now I feel like you're actually sliding in bed. Like,
yeah, you literally just changed your entire demeanor around.
I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm not sold on it. But it's March 2nd, and if it does happen, it means that Joe Shane believes in the guy. It means that the Giants organization
But that was
believes
the
in
same narrative with Daniel Jones. It came out of, we found out about it 2 weeks prior to the draft. The Giants were hot on this quarterback from Duke. Here's everything you need to know about Daniel Jones. And listen, I'm not throwing Daniel Jones out the door. I give him a lot of benefit of the doubt, and I want to keep him. I want him to be our next Eli Manning, and I'm going to ride that train until it literally goes off, derails, where it literally derails. So, but that is the same. I'm not looking to make that same decision this season in this draft. I can't. It's been too short of a time period for another GM to be so hot on someone that is so low on everyone else's radar.
I also always make the argument, too, that I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I don't think any quarterback in this league would find success behind the Giants' trash offensive line.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't matter if you get like the next Tom Brady in the draft. Like, it's not going to happen behind that line. So
this is where having Daniel Jones is a really distinct advantage, because Jones is still here. So you can have a year where You can see what you have in a roster, who is here, who is not. And then, like, that would be a situation versus Eli Manning where I wanted that guy to kind of play sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
With Daniel Jones still being here, and especially, again, if you don't pick up that fifth-year option, the fourth year is affordable, then he has that year to play out and, see what happens. And then Malik Willis is kind of on the bench. But why I don't think it's going to happen, and why I also, so here's why, like, I would be down if it did happen, or I wouldn't be mad, but also why it's not going to happen and why I don't think it makes sense for the Giants right now. I still think Joe Schoen has a lot of work to do behind the scenes in the Giants building in terms of getting the right people in there, because he's not going to overhaul the scouting department the second that he gets here, because they need to operate this draft. I don't know if he has the full staff of people that he fully trusts yet to make a decision on a quarterback. And especially that's Chris Pettit. I mean, Chris Pettit, who really, slammed his hand on the table for Saquon Barkley, part of that Daniel Jones pick. Chris Pettit has been a part of a lot of draft classes that, you haven't really gotten a lot of great depth. And Chris Pettit is ultimately part of that miscommunication that was present between front office and coaching staff, Matt Parrott being the biggest example of Dave Gettleman is saying Matt Parrott's name alongside Andrew Thomas, saying that we're confident in these guys heading into the 2021 season. But the coaching staff is like, well, we don't see this guy as a starter. And then therefore Nate Solder's playing. So I think that there's those behind the scenes moves need to be made before Joe Schoen can kind of really pull, what's the phrase,
Just
make
like
that
Bill
final
Thompson
decision.
to get his guy,
Yes. I think he wants more trusted people in the building.
He wants to rock with somebody for 10 plus years. So and I think he's got such a great recruiting background that he's got to pride himself on that, and he's going to want to absolutely hit a home run with it. So you're right.
I think it's a great point.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like this question because it actually ties into the game that Caitlin and I are going to play later in the show, where we talk about who has the potential to go from worst to first. Like, who are some of the fourth place teams in their division that could potentially, finish first in their division this year? So this specific question is, will the Giants be the most improved team next season? If so, why? And if not, why?
So the Buffalo Bills in 2017, it was 2017 when Joe Schoen first got there. They went 9-7 in 2017. And that was a year where Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy were, the quarterback running back duo that they had that year. And that was a very unexpected year, because especially 2016, they went 7-9, and you had a different coach. You had a Rex Ryan as their head coach there, but they made the playoffs. 2017, they made the playoffs. So, can I possibly see the Giants taking that kind of jump? Probably not. I think there are possibly some other teams that you could pick that go from worst to first, but man, because this is so tough without those cuts. Here's why they do make the jump. Daniel Jones gets back to the explosivity that they had in 2019, and it's more. And Brian Dable is able to lock into and latch into what Daniel Jones does well, which that is something that Jason Garrett and Joe Judge never really got. They were looking to, push down Daniel Jones's potential and his big playability. And we want to take that element away from you to prevent the turnovers, to prevent the negative plays. I hope that Brian Dable is going to be one of those coaches that's like, you know what? If we're going to throw an interception, if you're going to take a sack every once in a while, but as long as it comes, if that's going to be the main price, but we produce those explosive plays and we could put more points on the board, then I'm fine with that. And I think that was kind of Daniel Jones's game in 2019, but Jason Garrett tried to really dwindle it down. It really does rest on the offense.
That was Eli Manning his entire career.
Yeah.
He would always sling it. And it was because and not every quarterback in the league is going to do this, because there are guys who really truly care about their stats and how pretty their stat sheet looks. Eli didn't give a shit. No. He was like, if I throw 5 picks, but I give us a chance to win the game, I bomb it 60 yards down the field, I'm going to do it. And I would love to see Daniel Jones do that, because obviously his stats when he has had those deep throws have been pretty damn good. So
Yeah, that's what really it lies on. If the Giants are going to be the most improved team across the National Football League, it's going to rest on, can they produce more big plays, more explosive plays? And when you produce more big plays and explosive plays, this is actually a study that I want to do. But I do feel producing explosive plays in a drive that, if you produce it from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, I think producing big plays helps your red zone efficiency, because you're not putting as many plays on the script. You're not putting as many plays on the game schedule that's present. So you have a defense kind of at its heels where it's like, well, I'm not sure where they're going to go next, versus if you have a 10, 11, 12 play drive, which Jason Garrett really liked to do, 10, 11, 12 plays, somebody's going to drop a ball, somebody's going to have a holding call, somebody's going to make a mistake where the drive is just going to flat out stall. And I think those big plays can kind of really jumpstarts everything for you. And if the Giants can do that, then I think that is the key to what can possibly drive them being a lot more successful, and probably more successful than people think next year. It's through that one area.
All right.
Well, if you do that study, I'd love to see it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've seen a lot of public-facing contract drama from many NFL players over the years. Who is the most recent Giant you can remember having that kind of contract drama?
Now, I know he's a fan favorite of all of us.
Uh-oh.
Osi Umenyiora.
He did. So when I put together this question, I knew it was going to come up. So OC is my favorite New York Giant of all time. And funny enough, I do remember his contract drama, and I go on Facebook every morning and look at my memories. So if you have a Facebook and you want to kill yourself every morning, look at what you posted in 2009,
I don't like
2008.
it. I don't enjoy it.
It's not good. So I do it every day though, just to make sure I don't know, I wasn't being an idiot, or I was being an idiot half the time. So recently, one of my posts from 10 plus years ago was me going out saying OC, stop being such a big baby and accept your contract. I swear to God, that was my status. That was my Facebook status. Because OC Umenyiora was going to, I think I might have. I was like, oh God, I hope he doesn't see that. Because he was going, now we're in a world where I actually can go tweet that at him and he will see it. I was in a Facebook world 20 years ago where he was never going to see that. He was never going to see me calling him out on my Facebook page. I have 100 friends. But I knew you were going to bring that up. And that's why I was shaping the question around the Kyler Murray stuff that's going on. And the hilarious thing his agent put out that no one read, I can guarantee you, that long. I didn't read. I read one sentence and I was like, this is too long. I can't read this shit.
I saw the bolded parts. That's I want to be a Cardinal. I'm like, okay, well.
Let's move on. But so I knew you were going to say OC, but I would love your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I did some reading on it for Bleeding Blue 1 or 2 years ago, and then I pulled up a article from CBS News from June 16, 2011. But this was going on for years. It was 2009, OC Umenyiora walks out of Old Giant Stadium thinking that's his last game played as a Giant. But then I also am seeing articles from 2013 that when he finally leaves the Giants, 2013 or 2014, that, okay, Jerry Reese and I are cool, but there was a multi-year feud, and it went on for 5-6 years of OC Umenyiora threatened at one point, I am never going to speak to Jerry Reese again. I am never going to speak to him. And there was actually an affidavit. So 2011 was around the time of the lockout where Umenyiora was one of the plaintiffs in Brady v. NFL, which was a federal suit seeking an injunction against the ongoing lockout for the NFL. And OC claimed that Jerry Reese lied, that Jerry Reese said, I'm going to come to you in good faith. And I can't even tell you what year this is, because this is 6 years of hate between these guys. Of Jerry Reese says, I'm going to come to you in good faith 2 years after a certain, and I think that was maybe 2008, maybe 2007. If you have two good seasons, I'm either going to come to you in good faith and give you a contract extension, or I'm going to trade you to a team that's willing to do so. And apparently that did not happen. The 2 years they came and went, OC played well, And I guess he was still under contract for a few years with the Giants, and they just didn't give him that extension, or they didn't give him more money. So that was a very, very long feud. And then finally, when he signed with the Falcons, there was a story that's like, oh yeah, we're cool now. I'm like, I don't think so, but sure.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because I do. And again, like I knew you were going to say that, but I think where I was coming with the question too was that, I do like that the Giants kind of keep a lot of their bullshit behind closed doors, because the NFL is a business. We spoke about it obviously last week with Will Blackman. Like, he stressed upon that a lot. It is an ongoing business. Everything is truly, that's it at the end of the day. So
what was the team that I was listening to this? What was the team that Will Blackman said he got a call from his agent saying, don't sign there. They're going to offer you a contract.
The Bengals.
Did he say why?
I think,
they just weren't that great. I don't know. He was just like, don't.
At the time, they were just,
they're going to call you, don't pick up.
Don't pick up. That was great. But yeah, so we definitely get that. But I do appreciate that the Giants keep a lot of that like behind the scenes, because I would hate and I know we've had bad years recently, and it's been tough being a Giants fan. But there's nothing that I'm ashamed of. Like, there are so many things that happen in other franchises that I would be royally ashamed to be a fan for. And I just, something like this, like we think back to OCU Manure again, it was years ago. I know there was like slight drama with Jason Pierre-Paul, but it was like so minuscule. And that's really,
he also like blew off his hand.
Yeah. So like clearly we had to talk about things with him. Yeah. There's definitely things that are just so, and I think back to Eli Manning, how many pay cuts he took to make sure contract drama didn't arise. And now we're seeing quarterbacks actually in the diva spot seat, like Kyler Murray, where they would never take a pay cut for their teammates. They're the ones saying, actually, you guys give me more money. So I just think it's a very interesting time in the NFL. So I definitely wanted to talk about that. And it's an interesting discussion for sure.
Yeah, and I even think the NBA is kind of playing an impact on that, where you're seeing guys like James Harden stand their ground. I'm not going to play. Or, where basically with the Houston Rockets.
I don't agree with that in any sport. If you don't play, no money.
But these are superstars. These are glorified. And I agree with you.
I'm a superstar at work, Justin. If I don't show up, I don't get paid.
So he planted his flag in the ground when he was with the Rockets, and he said, I'm going to be fat and I'm not going to play unless you trade me. And then he goes to Brooklyn, and then he's good. And then he kind of did the same thing with the Nets. He's like, all right, I'm going to not listen to the coaches, and I'm not going to do what I want to do. And then he goes to the 76ers, and it's like, so I think NFL players are kind of, they're seeing what Tom Brady did, which Tom Brady did not do that, but they're seeing that he had his pick. Tom Brady deserves to have his pick after he left the Patriots, because he's kind of like the greatest to ever do it. But that's what guys want. Guys want their pick of where to go and who to want and who to play with and what coach they want to go for and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's kind of like what these star athletes want. But my father has a saying, it's good to want.
Caitlin and I have been saying this day one. We're still waiting for Kyler to just come out one day and be like, peace, I'm going to go play professional baseball.
Bye.
Really?
Not now with the lockout.
We've been calling it. So obviously, number one draft pick, big hype. He's going to be a huge franchise quarterback for a team. And Caitlin and I, from day one, before he was even drafted, we're like, we wouldn't draft the kid because we're terrified that you draft him to be your franchise quarterback. And like after like 3 years in the league, he's like, peace, I'm going to go play baseball.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting. I'm telling you, like, if he ends up being so unhappy, that's what's going to happen. I still believe that.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to continue to be a narrative too, because I didn't read the full thing from his agent, but there is a sentence saying that he's committed to playing in the NFL. So that means his agent still has to come and reassure every person every time that Kyler Murray makes a statement. It has to stay in there. He's staying in the NFL, because not just us, the whole world thinks that he's switching over to baseball this first chance he gets. So
And in the world of contract extensions too, that when this was all kind of getting started and getting heated up, and there was, I think even Schefter went as far to say that there's questions around Kyler Murray's dedication and leadership and whether he's actually fully there. If he's looking for that contract extension, the Cardinals could be playing hardball too and being like,
Absolutely.
well, we're not going to give you as much guaranteed money. And, especially for a Cardinals team that has these second half collapses where Murray is ultimately a part of those second half collapses. Does Kyler Murray deserve what he's probably looking for to be the largest contract that's ever been given out to an NFL player? So I think those, the Cardinals could be playing hardball too. And that's why when all this kind of happens, I kind of just I try to have a narrow, common sense look at things where, Kyler Murray, his interests are obviously getting money. And I think that's where his interests are right now, as athletes kind of deserve. And then the team has that mindset too of, well, we want to keep this guy cost effective, and they may be putting out stuff too. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So not just for the New York Giants, this could be anything in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's early. It just
is early.
Go to March. But 3 predictions for the 2022 NFL season.
I'm excited about this.
Okay.
First one, Caitlin, you have to let me know what your significant other thinks about this.
Oh.
We don't have to get his thoughts. But okay.
The Eagles are going to trade for Derek Carr and win the NFC East.
Get the fuck out of here. No way.
Justin, we said predictions. It didn't have to be bold predictions.
No, just what the F prediction? It's no way. No way. I know. I was gonna say we can phone him in right now. I know he's watching, but I'm gonna wait for a text in 2 seconds.
Does it not
WTF?
make
No
all the sense in the world?
No.
I will say, sorry, Caitlin, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is the answer at quarterback.
No.
And two, it's not outlandish to say that they could win the NFC East. Somehow they made the playoffs this year, and we don't play in a good division, so they could get that part of the equation. The Derek Carr part is where I don't see it being him, and I don't see them making the change this year.
Is it a quarterback swap? Does Jalen Hurts go to the Raiders?
The Raiders have 3 first-round picks. Excuse me, the Eagles. The Eagles have 3 first-round picks this year. The Eagles have a lot of picks.
Yeah,
and that is my thinking, where you have a new regime in Las Vegas, Dave Ziegler. I can easily see somebody that's coming from the New England mindset falling in love with a Kenny Pickett. Falling in love with probably not Carson Strong, but one of those guys that's kind of hey, this isn't really conventional, but maybe it'll work for you because you come from the Patriots and the Patriots just make things work, right? I can see that. Or are the Raiders just good enough to say, we're just going to build up a bunch of picks and rebuild the team? Or I don't even know if the Raiders don't even need a full rebuild, but they have an opportunity with Derek Carr if they want to. And if this new regime eventually wants to find their guy, they have an opportunity with a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that has so much draft capital. And I think it makes more sense for the Eagles than it does more sense to the Raiders. So I will say that.
Yes.
That's bold.
Wow. That was just the first one.
I know. I'm sweating. I don't know if I'm ready for the other 2.
No. So I want more thoughts on it. I want more.
That's really.
You definitely caught us off guard.
I really wasn't prepared.
I also think again, I'm gonna talk about the second half of that prediction of winning the NFC East. If Derek Carr is your quarterback, I think Derek Carr is a little bit underrated, and I think you bring him into our division and he becomes the second best quarterback after Dak. But he's not far off from being ranked above Dak. Not far off.
Absolutely not.
Brady's gone.
Pre-leg break, he was better than Dak Prescott.
But he's still he's still top 5 in passing yards, season after season. So I don't think that's outlandish. I just don't.
It is outlandish.
Well, it's 100%
not that part, but I just don't see. I feel like the Raiders had so many opportunities to part ways with Derek Carr, and I really did think it was going to happen at some point. And now I just feel like they're just sticking with the guy.
Yeah.
So
they're going to stick with
that
him.
part happening.
I think we had such a blockbuster quarterback situation with the Rams and the Lions. I don't think we're going to see another thing like that for like another season or
But
two.
why not? It worked.
Listen, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that it was so that no one had that on their bingo card. Like no one could have ever predicted that. And if you're sitting there and you're watching our show right now and you're like, well, you're lying. Like no one had that like ever. Like, so like if this happens, I'm like buying you like a car, I think. Like I don't even know, like
we have receipts.
Or we're taking you to, you're coming to AC with us, like we're playing the lottery with you. Like if this is if this comes true, like I just and I don't really have much thought on it because I am so taken back by this prediction. So
but I mean think about the NFC, especially when you compare it to the AFC.
Yeah.
The Raiders could also be looking at the AFC saying there's Mahomes, there's Allen, there's Herbert. Especially in their own division.
Right, I was just going to say, it's kind of shitty to play in that division.
So if you really got to get a guy, and is Derek Carr that guy? I don't know. Some people think he can be, and I think if he were to go to a team like the Eagles, I think he actually becomes a little bit better. So the Raiders could be looking at it that way. It's like, hey, we kind of got to let Mahomes get more into that contract where he's getting more money. We got to let Herbert get a little bit more into this rookie deal where he's getting a little bit more money, and then they give him a contract extension, and then maybe we can move in with our QB on our rookie deal. So that's the thing of there. But the Eagles, Brady's gone. If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, the NFC landscape changes completely.
Yeah.
The Rams have Matt Stafford, obviously, and the Rams are still going to be the LA Rams, but it's very, very difficult to win back-to-back years. It's very, very difficult.
And they play in I think the best NFC division. So
yeah. And is Russell Wilson on the decline? What is Trey Lance going to be? The Dallas Cowboys are going to have to make a lot of cuts this offseason. They're going to cut Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup's a free agent, but also coming off an ACL. What is their defense going to look like when it's not forcing a bazillion turnovers? So I really do think it is right there. It is right there for the Philadelphia Eagles. If they want to possibly sneak in, and I'm talking like not only win the NFC East, but if they can really sneak in to a conference championship, because it makes all the sense
Jake,
if Derek Carr is their quarterback.
We already pushed the envelope enough. We don't need to go.
Don't like put like my 2022 in like a shithole already, Justin.
I'm
like
sorry.
I don't need to look forward to that in my life.
It makes all the sense. So all right, so that's number one. That's the one that I'm most excited about. Number two is Justin Herbert wins MVP.
I love it.
I love it. I think we called for that. Yeah, we thought it could happen this year, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, I thought that he should have gotten a little bit more love for MVP, but I'm also a sucker for the advanced analytics and the advanced numbers like EPA and stuff like that, where he was number one in EPA. Justin Herbert also, when you consider the team that he was on, I thought he was on the worst team out of a guy like, let's say, Mahomes, even Rodgers. I know Rodgers has, they've had some suspect draft picks, but I think Herbert puts it all together and he has a little bit of a better team and they have a little bit of a better record, and he gets MVP next year. And then number three, I saw that we had a Tua comment, and I also see the jersey behind you, Caitlin.
Oh, so this is bold. This is someone mocking you. This is not.
I don't think. Sorry, but I do think the Dolphins make the playoffs, and Tua does take a jump. I would love to see that. There's so much Tua hate out in the world, and I just want to fight every person on that. So the only thing that I'm iffy on,
season, relax, everyone. Let's relax.
The only thing that I'm iffy on, well, first of all, Tua has to, he has to stay healthy, so that's also that's a part of it. Now, part of it is he has a terrible offensive line. Like the Dolphins have, like you thought the Giants' offensive line was bad. Dolphins was worse.
Right.
So they need a better offensive line. But Tua was able to work in a system, unlike the Giants last year, where Tua was able to work in a system with bad offensive line play, but he was very, very efficient. And he did the things that he was asked to do. Low average depth of target, high completion rate, but he kept the kind of offense moving, methodically moving. He kept them on schedule. So if they can get a better offensive line, and Mike McDaniel's obviously a pretty good visionary on offense coming from that Shanahan tree. if they can do some more things where it's play action, getting Tua away from a pass rush, if they don't drastically improve the offensive line, I think Tua can do some really good things. And I think the Dolphins are, they were already pretty close to a playoff appearance. And I think they can take that jump. And, if the Pats especially take a step down, which I can see the Pats taking a step down, not playing insane elite defense and people figure out Mac Jones. I think Tua can make that jump and the Dolphins can be that second team in the playoffs out of the AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that you said.
For predictions, and he delivers the bold predictions.
Delivered, but oh yeah, those were great. Oh, that first one though, still sweating a little bit.
I'm gonna skip ahead to two other questions because I think we should finish with we have two questions, one about your podcast and just one about you, Justin. So let's keep kind of where we're at right now, but this is going back to the draft. I plugged this question in myself because Caitlin knows this. When the Giants are like, it's like week 5 and we suck already, I'm already reading mock drafts. I read mock drafts for like months before the draft.
I don't. I read them like the day before the draft. I don't.
I do one.
And read like a new mock draft every day.
Yeah.
I do not.
And lately, I've been, and I think Mel Kiper just came out with one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been reading a couple this week that have had the Giants taking, and not just edge, but using their 2 first-round picks to take back-to-back defensive players. No offensive linemen, back-to-back defense. Would you be mad about that? I know I would. Yes. That's my answer. But would you be mad? And I know it's all like situational and everything.
Yeah. But I would be mad at that if the Giants don't take anybody interior or tackle day 2. That's when I would be mad at it. Which I think that was the time to be mad at the Giants not taking offensive linemen in the 2021 draft, was when they didn't get an offensive lineman day 2. It's like, all right, you got Tony, you traded back. Awesome. Right. That looks great. And a lot of people were mad they didn't take, Slater or Parsons, whatever. The time to be mad about, not building up and beefing up the offensive line is day 2. Because day 3, it's kind of just like a crapshoot, right? Obviously you have, the Trey Smiths of the world that worked out for the Kansas City Chiefs this year, but you can't bank on, fifth rounders, 6th rounders, or even 4th rounders kind of being there for you and ready to rock and roll day 1. But day 2 guys, you can. And a guy like Zion Johnson from Boston College, if he is there in round 2 and the Giants take two defensive players in round 1, that is a slam dunk. That is a slam dunk getting Zion, like a guy like Zion Johnson, who is viewed as like the second best interior offensive lineman behind Kenyon Green. So it would have to depend on what they do day 2 in order for me to be like full mad.
That we like crush it day 2 way more than we ever crush it in the first.
That was what we spoke about when we were on Talkin Giants with you, Justin. We spoke about the history of the Giants in the second round. Like the Giants thrive in the second round.
And McKinney.
Like
so many
McKinney.
Yeah. We do well. So
okay, so we had some cuts today in New York.
We did.
Definitely having to make some room. So who else do you think Giants fans should expect to be cut in order to make some cap room?
Now, cut is the key word there, because the 2 trades that may happen, there's one I would like to see happen, and then the other one that I'm like, Saquon Barkley should be traded.
I've been saying for 2 years now.
We're ready.
James Bradbury probably also should be traded. I don't think he just should be flat out cut. I think he does have some value.
He has a lot of value, I think.
Yeah. Sterling Shepard is a guy that I unfortunately think is going to be cut. Blake Martinez, I kind of hope they rework him. I hope he's one of those.
Don't say that, Justin. My heart just broke on camera.
Love Blakey Poo.
Yeah,
I know. But if he wasn't coming off the ACL, I think that's the thing that kind of complicates it.
Technicality.
So he's a guy that could be cut. Riley Dixon.
Yeah, he was bad at the end of the season.
If you cut, I did not initially know this, but if you cut Darius Slayton, it's like $2.5 million. If you cut Caden Smith, it's some $2 million, which you can't cut everybody. That's also my thing. Like,
well, I wouldn't
great.
cut Caden Smith because I don't want Evan Ingram to come back to this damn team.
Now the thing is with Caden Smith, he has a knee issue. And that's why
we just got rid of Kyle Rudolph today. Like, do not put this team on the back of Evan Ingram. I swear to God.
Well, Evan Ingram's a free agent, so I really don't think he's come back. It's going to be on the back of Chris Myers.
We have to get a tight end in the draft then.
We have to like three tight ends.
I think there's a lot of tight end free agents, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like there's a pretty decent laundry list of guys.
And there's a lot of good.
I will play tight end for the New York Giants.
And there's a lot of good tight ends in the draft too that I would be really excited if we got. That I do think that should be a priority for the Giants this year. There's like too many good tight ends in this draft class. Whether you take a guy round 2 or whether you take like a Jake Ferguson rounds 3, 4. I mean that should be definitely a priority.
Jake Ferguson that'd be a good pick.
Yes. I also do think
I have to look more into the tight ends. Yeah.
I've come to the realization that Nick Gates is probably going to be cut.
That sucks too. Yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. $2
that
million.
just bothers me with him and like the injury thing. Like really pisses me off. And I really hope that Joe Shane actually addresses the training situation the Giants have. I know every team gets hit with the injury bug or every team has injuries. The Giants this year, and even just a lot of players in the NFL this year, like, and maybe you want to argue, is it playing on grass versus turf? Like, are people getting hurt in, Washington Stadium? The Giants just like shadily had so many gruesome injuries this year. And I don't trust who our training staff is. Like, I really don't. So like, I hope like everything behind closed doors is being examined and looked at closely. So.
Yeah, and that's why I'm most confident in Joe Shane being the guy that can do that. Because I do think he is crossing his T's and dotting his I's. Whereas if it was somebody that was already in the building, or if you compare it back to the 2018 process, there was no reason to trust it. Like, if Dave Gettleman did embrace a rebuild, then yes, you can trust it and you can be more patient. But he didn't. He signed Nate Solder. He signed Jonathan Stewart. He signed Patrick Omame to a 3-year deal. He signed all these guys to, money, large deals that maybe they didn't deserve. And then obviously drafting Saquon too says that we're ready to win now versus kind of build for the future. Joe Shane, I think he kind of deserves, we have to see what he's going to do, obviously. But I think as of right now, how he's kind of speaking, how he's talking, how I think he's going to approach the Giants organization, and also just being an outsider, I think he deserves that patience. So,
yeah.
As of March 2nd, 2022.
Before everybody starts jumping throat.
Put a timestamp on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into these final 2 questions. They are about you, Justin. So what is your favorite thing about each of your podcasts? Of course, we talked before, Talkin Giants and Bleeding Blue are your podcasts. What are your favorite things?
Yeah, so Talkin Giants, really one of my favorite things right now. It's changed, but it's always been the same in a way. It's changed of how I think of it, but the community of people that, we have following, we live stream to our Patreon crowd every single show, and there's consistently, 15, 16 people, and if it's a game reaction pod or if it's a big news pod, we got more people in there. But, we have a community of people that, that are ride or die with us. And I love that. And even the people that aren't ride or die, they're with us. We're part of, three times a week during the regular season, then twice a week during the off season, talking Giants wise. We're in your ears, and a podcast is a very, clicking on it, whether it's via YouTube or whether it's via, a podcast app, it's an intimate experience where it's like, all right, I'm going to spend the next hour with you, and, you're going to spend it, or you're kind of going to spend it with us too. So I love the community that we have with Talkin Giants, because also it's letting us do more things. This is now my job. It's not just a thing that I do, when I was in college. It's now like my job. And it was a dream that I started to chase, that when it became realistic that I was asked to join John Boy Media and Bobby asked me to come along, that's when it started to become like, oh, maybe this is a thing that I can do. And now we can do more things. Like we're going to start to film more IRL stuff in real life, videos. We can expand into talking football. We can live stream at our recording studios for the NFL draft. We can go to trips, we can go to training camps, all these different things. It's because of the community that we've built. Bleeding Blue, that's my baby. Bleeding Blue is my baby. That is the show that I had before I joined Talkin Giants in 2018 and 2019. It was a show that I did with David Powis, and I wanted to think of, well, how I don't want to just let this audience that I've built on this platform, with this podcast, I don't want to just delete it. I don't want it to just go away. So what can I do to rebrand it? And what I did is I made it a Giants history podcast. And, especially the last couple of years, the Giants today have been bad. So it's been really fun during the offseason with one of my best friends in the world, Nikki Snacks. And you guys know Snacks very well, unfortunately. No, but Snacks is so great. And he's one of my best friends. And the fact that every week we get together and we talk about the great times of the Giants, and even the times that we, like this offseason, we're really spending a lot of our time on Giants that we never saw. So 90s, 80s, before, Giants, and really spending a lot of time on those teams. It's great to relive the great history of this franchise, and Bleeding Blue is my baby. That's always going to be the show that I started and the show that I came up with. So those are the two favorite, two things about two of the shows that I do.
Love it.
Love it.
Okay. So last question, when you are not talking Giants, when you are not talking about football, tell us you have a life outside of that. What are your hobbies?
I love bowling.
We'll go bowling sometimes. Katie and I dabble in the bowling occasionally.
I love it. I'm starting to get more back into it now that, world's starting to open back up again. People are starting to do more things, and you can feel more comfortable doing things too. And also, I've been grinding because I've been trying to get this full-time job, and I've been trying to get to a point where we can feel comfortable enough where I'm like, all right, maybe if there's a night that I'm not just on Twitter scrolling, waiting for news to happen, maybe I can do something. So I'm rejoining a bowling league. I bowled in high school. So I'm finding that passion again. And,
nice.
With some other people that I know that do it too. So bowling, you guys are wine drinkers.
Yes.
I'm a cigar smoker, which I know,
right.
which I know, everything has its downfalls, but that's my vice. So I also love a good cigar on a warm Saturday night in the summer by the fire.
I don't smoke cigars, but what you just pictured, that looks very nice.
Just replace it with wine.
On a nice warm summer night. Absolutely. Outside. Love it.
All right. I love it. We covered a lot.
So much.
It was great.
Are you still shook over Derek Carr going to the Eagles?
I'm not over it.
But I'm glad that we officially have the receipts now. So if
you bet your ass I'm clipping that tomorrow and putting you on blast. This is what.
Put him on blast, baby. Put him on blast.
Please.
Definitely. But before we wrap up with you, do you have any questions for the two of us? I know we had all three of us got into the conversation, but and if you don't, it's okay.
No. All right. So here's one. I had this moment yesterday. I was on the train going home from, our studios in Manhattan, and I was watching the Shane pressers, and I'm just thinking to myself, I feel good about the team. Just quotes. We haven't had really anything substantial happen yet, but how are you feeling? Just feeling, not analysis, about the team that we have right now with Dable, Shane. I'm feeling optimistic.
Well, I'll show you how our fans are feeling about this episode. So I know that's Bobby.
Who's that?
I think Caitlin and I straight up know that I'm kind of like the Debbie Downer on the Giants. There's always me and Snacks, we go hand in hand. We're like the Debbie Downers, and Caitlin is very
like Super Bowl.
I think instead of being super Debbie Downer about this team, I think I'm just at that level of this has been so many years of bad seasons that, okay, I think it's great we brought in Dable and Joe Shane and that's cool and everything like that. I'm not going to let myself get excited about it, but I'm also going to be okay, we'll just see what happens. I don't want to jump the gun, and be these were great hires. I just want to see it proven. And that goes with the players too. It's okay, great. We got this guy, or maybe we have a good draft and we pick up somebody. I'm not going to get excited about anything until I actually see it on the field on Sunday and I see wins in that win column. other than that, I'm just gonna sit here and chill and drink my wine.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I'm definitely the overly optimistic one. Like we beat the Saints in overtime this year, and I think I was texting Katie. I was like, "We're going to the Super Bowl." like that's where my mind goes. But I think back to so many seasons where the Giants were good, and we had an offensive line that would literally eat you alive, and would literally
defensive line
and would defend Eli Manning, like would kill you on the field, probably like pull out a knife on the field or kill you with their bare hands. And like, that's like that gritty football that I absolutely love. So when I see like a little spark in the Giants at any moment now, like I get that back. It's like the Celine Dion song. It's all coming back. It's all coming back now. Like I'm getting those memories back, and it makes me happy. I am getting to a point, though. I think this season really started to turn me into more of. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Where Katie feels in these situations, like getting numb when we lose games, like not really being like so upset anymore because it's just like it just kind of happens. But I like what we've done this off season. I like the transition of ownership of the franchise making all the decisions to bringing people in that are going to make the decision. So it's not the Maras and the Tishes anymore kind of doing things because it's the way we've always done things or the way in which they want to do it. They're bringing in guys like Joe Shane and Dable and other guys within the org. And those guys are they're putting the power into them. And that's something that the Giants haven't done in a while. And I like that switch to things.
They've never done that.
Yeah.
Never. Like this is even like before George Young, pretty much the last time that the NFL had to force George Young, coming from the Miami Dolphins in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And the Giants have never, ever done something like this where somebody out of house, somebody outside the organization has really came in and taken over football operations. So we'll see what moves are made. But hey, again, March 2nd, 2022, Justin Penik's optimistic about the future. Even if it doesn't happen right away, optimistic about the future.
My phrase is like, I like it. I'm not going to get giddy over it.
Show me something. I would say I'm excited about it as well. But honestly, Justin, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. What a way to, as we inch closer to our 200th episode, we are just having great guests on. We're having great discussions. This is another phenomenal episode. Justin, before we part ways, can you please let our audience know where they can find you, where they can find Talkin Giants and Bleeding Blue?
Yeah, Talkin Giants, socials, Talkin Giants, podcast apps, YouTube's Bleeding Blue. We premiere it every Monday at 6 p.m. on the Talkin Giants channel. Figured it's kind of like it's a sister cousins show, so it deserves its own spot on the TG channel. So still 3 times a week during the off season, you do have some sort of Giants show that's coming at you. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always a blast. And as a Giants fan, don't want Derek Carr to become an Eagle, but it's inevitable.
And that's how he leaves us.
He's just gonna mic drop it real quick. But yes, Justin, thank you so much for joining the Real Football Fans of New Jersey. And this is not the last time we will be together. Obviously, you guys will see us all together soon. But thank you, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers.
All righty, I got to switch up our branding real quick because it is just, that was perfect. I thought it was going to be a lot. I literally thought I had to. We're back. Alrighty, so we're going to switch gears real quick. There's still a ton of people watching, and I hope you guys are interested in the Housewives because we're going to go some quick hot topics. So this one's a little sad, and it's not always great to report on it. But over the weekend, Real Housewives of Potomac's Miami Thornton announced that she's recently been denied.
You just called her Miami Thornton.
Oh my God, because we are talking. Oh my God, we're not talking about Miami, but we're talking about something related to Miami. Yeah. So
Real Housewives of Potomac.
Mia Thornton. Sorry. If your name is Miami, I'm sorry. Mia Thornton announced that she's recently been yeah, wow, I can't even speak tonight. Diagnosed with cancer. She did not specify what kind of cancer, but revealed that she's been in and out of visits to specialists every day. Mia joined Potomac in season 6. She is expected to return for season 7. That's going to happen mid to late 2022. So just as more details come out, obviously we'll let you know, but prayers up to her. Obviously hope for a speedy recovery, and it's never, never good. But I know we've spoken about this before with the Housewives. I do like when they kind of pull back the curtain and show real life situations that, happen to everyone. It's not sunshine and rainbows for all of these people. So,
Right.
All righty. So New Jersey's Teresa Giudice has finally sold her iconic home in Montville, New Jersey. The mansion sold for $1.99 million. She accepted an all-cash offer. I would love to know who has $2 million in cash for the 6-bed, 5.5 bath that she originally put on the market for 2.5. So we went down for this one. She listed that in 2020. So the house is on a 3.7 acres, and the property taxes are $45,000.
I have to say, I know she has that really long driveway. Like, we've all seen the house.
Where's the property?
But damn, I never knew it was 3.7 acres. And I know, and if you're not from the state of New Jersey and you're listening to us, you're going to think this sounds absolutely crazy. But I actually think $45,000
is not bad.
This is not bad for almost 4 acres of property. And
that's fair.
I said, people outside of New Jersey are like, you fucking
the people
crazy, 45K. That's a salary. But yeah, in New Jersey, our property taxes are not too great.
People outside New Jersey are like, I bought my house for $45,000. What are you talking about? We know, people. We know.
Yeah.
It ain't easy being here. No. So, all righty. And then last but not least, a blind item rumor from All About it's all about the Real Housewives, but it's all about TRH.com. I want to give you guys the actual link.
That's one of our favorite websites.
Yes.
We have content from them.
They give us all the Housewives drama and news.
Yeah.
They claim that Peacock is looking to add new Housewives franchises to its lineup after, this is where I got Miami from before, after the Real Housewives of Miami was so successful this past season airing on Peacock. So the rumor is that Chicago, Honolulu, and Nashville are all in the running. So out of those 3, which one would you like to see?
No to Nashville. I absolutely hate country music, and I have no desire.
I don't think they're gonna come on every episode.
I have no desire to I know Nashville's such a hot spot for bachelorette parties.
Fun.
I have no desire to ever go there. And I'm sorry, anybody who invites me to their future bachelorette party, it's there. I'll go. I'll wear boots.
I'm gonna do mine there now.
Honolulu, just it would be fascinating, but it just doesn't feel like real life. It feels like vacation life, which is makes it tempting.
Right.
I love Chicago.
You do.
Chicago is one of my favorite cities. I tell people all the time, I would pick Chicago.
Yeah. And I knew you were going to pick Chicago because Chicago's actually been a rumor mill for the Housewives for a very long time, just on Bravo. That's always, when they bring up new franchises, that one is always front and center.
I like it.
100%. I've got to go with Honolulu on this one. That would be cool. We're getting the Real Housewives of Dubai coming up. That to me, I'm so fascinated about.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Honolulu, you're right. Because I would love to just see the people just living in Hawaii
year round. They're not vacationing. They live there year round.
I love it. And I love the culture. I want to see the culture. I want to see everything. And if it's the Housewives, that means these people are money. We went to a wedding where my family went to Hawaii a very long time ago. I was 10, 11 years old. But we went because one of my dad's coworkers got married there. But the family was from there. They had money. So this was a Hawaiian family that had money. And I got to tell you, they put New Jersey Housewives to shame, full shame. So that's why I'm all in, press the button on Honolulu. I want it.
Yeah, but and again, you just said, I can't even picture in my brain, what money looks like in Honolulu. Like, what does that look like? I imagine like a beachfront property, which that would be a pretty penny, but it would definitely be very, very interesting.
Money.
Do you notice that then, like, if process of elimination, we nixed Nashville. Sorry. Bye, Nashville.
I mean, you are just more passionate about nixing Nashville than I am.
Oh man, Caitlin's batch party's gonna be there now. Cool.
Writing it down. Plan future.
I'm busy that weekend. I'm not even engaged yet. You don't know what weekend it is. I'm busy. Sorry.
It's 10 years from now.
All right. Well, let's get into our game. We did tease it before, of course, when we were talking with Justin about teams that could potentially, teams that didn't have a great season this past year, potentially making a leap in the 2022 season. So this game is called Worst to First, the Best of the Bottom. We played this game last year around the same time, especially because now, like, the end of the season power rankings are out on all the major websites. We're going to rank all 8 teams that finished last in their division this past season in regards to who has the best possibility to go from worst to first in their division in the 2022 season. So bonus, we're also going to tell you who we think each team's biggest competition will be within that division. Okay, so recap of the 4th place teams this season. The NFC East, unfortunately, we have our New York Giants. NFC North, we have the Detroit Lions. NFC South, Carolina Panthers. NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks. AFC East, the New York Jets. AFC North, Baltimore Ravens. Isn't it crazy saying like Baltimore Ravens and like Seattle Seahawks?
Literally, as I was prepping for this game, I was
Crazy.
like, that's nice to look at. Very weird.
We're in a world where we could put the Giants right now on the same level as the Ravens and the Seahawks.
That's the optimism. I love it.
So AFC South, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and AFC West, we have the Denver Broncos. Kate, do you think we should start with our first place team or our last place team?
It's totally up to you, but mine are, I actually just like went off the list. So I'm going to have to kind of pinball from where I'm going. So
why don't we start at the top? I feel like the top is a little more obvious. And then I feel like when you get towards the bottom, it could be shifty.
Okay.
So let's start with, who do you think has the best chance to be first in their division next year?
My number 1 pick is the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. Mine is the Baltimore Ravens too. They actually had the best record out of all these 4th place teams. Mm-hmm. Of course, they play in a tough division. But it's more so, I feel they are capable of winning it. And Baltimore has the playmakers and the head coach to get it done, I feel like. Their biggest threat, who do you think is their biggest threat in that division?
The Bengals. I mean, the Bengals obviously made it all the way to the Super Bowl and not even just went to the Super Bowl, contended with the Rams. That game was anyone's game. So I think if they're really trying to make it, it could be a division that sends 2 teams. But I think if they really want to make their way back to the top, they gotta knock out the Bengals early. So
yeah, I agree with you. Bengals, kind of an obvious one when you play in the Super Bowl. And you got a lot of young people, like young playmakers that are going to be with you for a while. Like, the ceiling is very high for that team. All right, number 2, who do you got?
Going with the Seattle Seahawks.
I went with the Seahawks as well. A talented team with an off year. They obviously played a division that sent the other 3 teams to the playoffs. But I think Seattle is up there with Baltimore as the top 2 teams talent-wise out of this list of teams. And who do you have as their biggest threat?
Honestly, I have the entire division, to be honest. I literally wrote it. It's a tough, and everyone is, they can't just knock out one team. They literally have to knock out every team in that division. So it's the entire division.
Yeah, I think that kind of almost gives like Baltimore the edge, and both of us picking them at 1 over Seattle, because that is a very, very difficult.
You could try to argue other teams on this. It'll be painful. But just because Seattle literally has to fight 3 teams, you could attempt to argue other teams on this list for that number 2 spot.
I went with the Super Bowl champs with the Rams, but of course, Kate, like you said, I mean, the Cardinals could have been Super Bowl champs this year. San Fran made
the Niners could have been
San Fran made a way closer run than anybody would have thought. So yes, very hard division. All right. So now I feel like the rest of the list gets interesting. Who do you have at number 3?
I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos on this one. I think that I think a lot of people will chalk up a lot of their wins, like maybe as like lucky, in the season where they beat bad teams. But I'm actually not fully, aside from like I don't think they were a bad team this year. I think the quarterback is still up in the air, and it kills me. Obviously I love Teddy Bridgewater, but he got hurt again, so like it just a lot of it definitely comes up into that aspect. And I think
and Justin said before too, like you're playing in a division, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin
right.
Herbert. Like,
yeah,
as much as you love Teddy Bridgewater, like even you can admit like that's not going to cut it in that division.
No. So I do think though they definitely have to make a lot of moves, but this past season I don't think was bad. So they're not starting off on an awful foot coming into 2022.
And the biggest threat in the division for them?
I am going with the Chargers. So I know again another very for me, I think to the division with Kansas City on top, and this is actually you'll see this trend with a lot of the other picks I had. You're not going to go ahead and just beat that number one team. There's other teams you have to chop away before you go and compete against the Chiefs. So for me, they're going to have to go against the Chargers big time, because the Chargers to this day, I still don't know how they didn't make the playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, number 3, and a huge theme of my list is like, you have to look at like who plays in really tough divisions, who plays in divisions where the teams are weaker. And even though they weren't a great team, they could still possibly win it. I went with the Carolina Panthers at number 3. So they definitely need to obviously figure out their quarterback situation. But they're number 3 for me because of the other question mark teams in that division, including New Orleans, Atlanta, and now a Tom Brady-less Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. I think it's anybody's division to win. I'm still going to call the Buccaneers their biggest threat, even though like we have no idea who will be playing quarterback. But I'm definitely not a believer in Atlanta, and New Orleans is like a big question mark for me as well. So, all right, number 4, Kate, who do you got?
So I have the Panthers at number 4. And I chose the Bucs as their biggest threat as well, because a Tom Brady-less Bucs team is still way better than a New Orleans Saints question mark. We don't have a head coach. We don't know what our quarterback situation is, because the Bucs will still most likely return every single player. I know they do. I know Mike Evans is a free agent, and they might have a couple of more in the mix. I think they're still probably going to be on track to return like 90% of their roster. So it's still a talented team. So,
you know what? There's a theme to this division. It's the what the hell are we all doing at quarterback division? I just realized that now. Honestly, talking about it.
Well, I think the Falcons are still going to ride with Matt Ryan as much as they can. But
clearly, like Matt Ryan is clearly showing that he is on like his last leg here.
Right, it might just be like a "what the hell are we doing" division in general. So, in all aspects.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, you and I we're pretty close here because you and I swapped 3 and 4. At 4, I have the Denver Broncos, and I did put this is pending who they could possibly land at quarterback. I said, cough, Aaron Rodgers, cough. That's always like a rumor that's running around. But it will still be hard to obviously knock off teams like Kansas City and the Los Angeles Chargers. My biggest threat is the Chiefs. All right, number 5. Who do you got?
So I was proud to put this as number 5 because I was like, oh, we're so bad. I put the New York Giants at number 5, out of this. But then you look at like the people that are falling behind them. So I'm kind of like, should I be proud that we're number 5 on this list? We spoke about it the entire episode. There is definitely optimism. There's definitely promise. We're coming off of if we can build around the line, there's other areas that I think of the team that are solid. Just a bad season. And I think there's things that we'll fix, and I think it'll be okay. I think our biggest threat in the division, which is so funny because I did not change my answer. I am going with the Philadelphia Eagles on this one. And I put that because very similar to what I said to one of the previous answers, I think with the Broncos, is that the Giants are going to continue. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be their biggest competition. It's going to be the entire division's, competition. So if we are going to fight to try to get into the postseason, we're going to have to fight the Eagles and Washington, and we're going to have to fight the entire season. And I don't think Washington will come out strong. And I think the Eagles obviously showed up in the second half of last season. So they're going to be our biggest competition this year.
I think you will be pleasantly surprised to learn that I
Giants.
also put the New York Giants at number 5.
Yay.
Something I looked, obviously I said the theme of this was I was looking at who else is in the divisions, but I actually pulled up the full stats of strength of schedule for all 32 teams next year. And out of these 8 teams, the Giants actually have the easiest 2022 schedule. So
finally.
That was a huge influence for me for putting them at number 5. They also play in an NFC East division that is always up for grabs season after season. Like it's not a division where you have the same consecutive winner year after year after year. It always switches between the 4 teams. Biggest threat, I still have the Dallas Cowboys. All right, number 6.
I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. Very poor record, obviously, but a team that was in every single game this past year. I would never label them as a bad team. In the division, though, again, this goes to my trend of, maybe not going after the top team. I think the Vikings are their biggest competition. If they want to go up and compete against Green Bay, they have to go up against the Vikings first. And a Vikings team that is sketchy year after year. Are they going to be good, or are they going to shit the bed randomly? We don't know what Vikings team we're going to get every year. So,
all right. At number 6, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I at this point in the list, I am acknowledging that it is unlikely that they would get the number 1 spot in the AFC South. But I do feel like it is a little bit of a sketchier division with Indy, Tennessee, and Houston. Obviously, Tennessee was the number 1 seed in the AFC this year, but they lost in the first round of the playoffs. I'm never super threatened by them or scared of them. Indy will be sketchy as long as Carson Wentz is the quarterback there, and obviously Houston is Houston. But I am going to say that their biggest threat is the Titans. All right, number 7, who do you got?
I'm going with the New York Jets. Don't think they're the worst team on this list. Definitely a team that needs a lot of improvement, a lot of questions answered for them. So, and then I think again, I know the Bills are very good, but, Justin had mentioned it. What?
Are you not going to say the biggest threat is the Buffalo Bills?
No, I'm actually going to say it's the Patriots because, again, I'm still riding on this. And again, I said it earlier, this is my trend for this entire list, that you just can't be the worst team in the division and say you're going to go up and your biggest competition's the top. If these teams are going to compete and they're going to try to go against a team like the Bills, you have to go against the Patriots, who had a phenomenal season last year. And if you're the New York Jets, you're not just going up and competing against the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry, there's some roads you have to take to kind of get to that point. And I think it's a trend
I'm looking at it more so who's realistically finishing first in the division.
And I think, and I took it clearly a different way. And yes, of course, obviously the Bills are going to finish, but I think a lot of these, I think we're in a time in the NFL too, where a lot of divisions can actually send multiple people. And now with the new playoffs, with more teams going, that's kind of where my head was at too. So I'm going to put the Patriots, because I know even Justin had mentioned it earlier, they could just not show up this season and not have a very good. So if that happens, then that's something the Jets need to advance on.
All right. Well, at number 7, I am going with the Detroit Lions. I just said the Giants had the easiest schedule out of these 8 teams. They have the second easiest schedule of the bunch. And although they most likely have to knock off Green Bay could be without Aaron Rodgers. And it's possible, and I did mark down that it's possible to surpass sketchy teams like the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Biggest threat in a world where Aaron Rodgers is still there, maybe even in a world where Aaron Rodgers isn't there, I still think it's Green Bay. And last but not least, who is at the very bottom for you?
I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Worst team last year. I just do think that they are the worst team on this list. They have a lot of stuff to figure out. I even made a bold claim this past season. No one really came after me, but I'm not sure if Trevor Lawrence is going to pan out in the NFL. So and I will stand by that for sure. And I think their biggest threat is actually the Colts. I think the Colts are a better team than the Titans. So, and I think
I really like the Colts.
I do too.
I swear to God, they're like just plug in a different quarterback and they win the Super Bowl. 100%. They're
100%.
so solid on offense. They're so solid on defense. That is such a well-rounded team. And you just got to fix that quarterback situation.
Absolutely.
All right, last but not least for me, my last place team, and I do want to emphasize that I don't think this is the worst team out of the 8 teams, but I am going with the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. And it is because this is going with their division. They're not going to knock off Buffalo, and I also don't think they're going to knock off New England, who was a playoff team this past year, and I feel that they should only get better in Mac Jones' sophomore season.
Right.
More comfortable in the system, everything like that. And I also put that you can't sleep on Miami either, just as you and Justin both were kind of talking about. I think obviously the biggest threat is the Buffalo Bills. But again, I know we probably have a lot of New York Jets listeners because we are in New Jersey. I don't think this is the worst team of the list. I just think that that's a tougher division where it's going to be harder to surpass all 3 of those teams. So that's who I got.
All right. Well, great game and such a really good analysis to take a look at all the last place teams and also in a very interesting list, just the names on these lists for sure. So it is that point of the episode where we get it off our chest: positive, negative, football, housewives, wine, life. I don't know about you, Katie, but mine is just that I love tonight's episode. Truly great.
It's been so great to have guests and just we're obviously inching towards episode number 200. So it almost feels like a lot of these episodes have little special guests or special themes. And Justin is one of our favorites. So it feels like it just builds the excitement as we get closer to number 200. And we're brainstorming a little bit and it's going to be a good one. We're almost a month away. So
close.
I know. Very excited. Very excited.
Very exciting.
As far as things that you guys don't want to miss this week, Real Housewives of Orange County, that just started. It is on tonight at 9:00. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion part 2 on Sunday at 8 p.m. We will definitely give a reunion recap once it is all finished. And then New Jersey on Tuesday at 8. NFL Combine, that started yesterday. It will end this upcoming Monday. And then NFL free agency period. Believe it or not, people, we are exactly 2 weeks away. So
we're getting there.
If you think that, we say this all the time in the off season when we do this show, if you think it gets boring, I promise you it does not. In 2 weeks, be glued to our social media pages, be glued to this show because the news is going to be breaking left and right, and we will be here to report it for you. So
absolutely.
Stick around.
Stick around. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us live. And anyone who's listening to the podcast, thank you for listening on demand. We had a great episode tonight with Justin Penik of Talkin Giants and Bleeding Blue. We'll have more guests for you in the off season. But as Katie said, it's an exciting time right now. So just keep following us, listening to the pod. And we're inching closer to 200 and we couldn't do this without you guys. So cheers to you and here's to another episode. We will see you next time. Thank you.
Good night.